Her suitcase rolled out the front door with the same grace she had trained into her voice. She told him she was flying to San Diego. She even kissed his cheek. But 10 blocks away, in a hotel under a different name, Talia Wren was about to test something most people are too afraid to face: truth. And when she came back that night, she didn't need an explanation, because one scene, one robe, and one look in his eyes ended everything. Welcome back to Mr. Charles Stories, where every heartbreak teaches power and every silence reveals strength. Have you ever felt something was off, but couldn't prove it? Have you ever looked someone in the eye and known they were gone long before they said it? If you've ever chosen to trust your instinct over sweet words, this story is for you. Stay with us. Seattle, 2 weeks earlier. Talia Wren walked through the glass doors of Reverie and Oak, her boutique design studio nestled near the Fremont Bridge. The morning sun caught the copper details of her blouse. Her almond-toned skin glowed against a structured jacket. Her movements, measured, calm, in control. Her assistant, Rowena, looked up. "Morning, Talia. Shipment for the Fenleys arrived. Want me to review?" Talia smiled softly. "Please, and double-check the eco-stain samples." Nothing about her face revealed it had taken her 45 minutes to get out of bed. Nothing about her voice showed that last night, Desric didn't come home until after midnight. Nothing ever did. Desric Vane wasn't a cruel man. That was what made it harder. He was attentive, in public, always the hand on the lower back, the shared smile at charity events. In private, though, he had become dimmer. He came home late. He looked at her without really seeing. He answered her questions with polite half-sentences. And when she reached for his hand during dinner, sometimes he didn't even flinch. He just didn't notice. Talia had stopped trying to make it loud. Instead, she paid attention. It started 3 months ago. A new cologne. Not bold, but different. Late nights stretched longer. He smiled more at his phone than he did at her eyes. He cleared his search history, which he never used to do. Talia wasn't paranoid. She wasn't insecure. She simply noticed. He hadn't said "I missed you" in weeks, and yet he hadn't fought either. The absence wasn't in volume, it was in weight, and weight doesn't lie. 5 years ago, their marriage had been full of softness. Their townhouse by the lake was filled with low jazz, shared playlists, and easy Sunday mornings. She decorated it herself, soft textures, reclaimed wood, thick rugs by the fireplace. They would sit for hours without needing to speak. That silence used to feel like safety. Now, it felt like suffocation. One morning, she stood beside the kitchen island as Desric typed furiously on his phone. She handed him his coffee. He took it without looking up. "Thanks," he said absently. She didn't say a word, but inside, something stopped. That night, she packed a small suitcase. He was still working when she stepped into the bedroom. "I'll be in San Diego for a client. 2 days, maybe 3. Desric nodded, eyes still on his screen. "Let me know when you land." She waited for him to look up. He didn't. So she walked over, leaned in, and kissed his cheek. Then walked out of the house. The cab was already waiting. Talia didn't board a flight. She didn't leave Seattle. She checked into the Belmont, a quiet boutique hotel downtown, and used a travel name she often used for solo getaways, Elise Denley. She requested no housekeeping, no calls, no interruptions, just a small room, big windows and strong locks. She didn't come to escape. She came to confirm. Months ago, she suggested home upgrades, sustainable tech, safety features, remote design monitoring. Desric signed the checks without asking questions. That's when she installed 3 discrete cameras. One in the kitchen ceiling light, one at the main hallway by the front door, one in the bedroom vent. The feeds were encrypted. Only she had the login, and now, from her hotel bed, she pulled up the screen. Night 1, 9:43 p.m. He cooked pasta. 10:26 p.m. He sat on the couch, watched a documentary. 11:52 p.m. Lights out, alone. She felt the ache of guilt. Maybe she was wrong, but something still throbbed in her ribs like unfinished truth. She tried to sleep but couldn't. She wasn't looking for drama. She wasn't looking to catch him. She was looking to find herself again. To know if she had been tolerating neglect, rewriting it as patience. And if she had, she'd correct it. With grace, with clarity, with silence. Because she didn't need noise to reclaim her worth. Talia barely slept. Her hotel room was quiet, the sheets crisp and untouched beyond the folded edge where she had sat for hours. She kept her laptop open beside her, the screen softly glowing in the dark. The security feed from the townhouse was still live. It felt strange, watching her own house from a distance. Every corner of it had her imprint, every texture, every angle, every finish. The kitchen pendants were hand-blown glass. The living room chairs came from a trip to Portugal. The green silk robe hanging behind the bedroom door was the same one Desric had gifted her after her first magazine feature. It used to mean something. Now, she watched it like a stranger might watch a stage. At 2:17 a.m., the bedroom lights turned off. Desric had gone to sleep alone. She noted that, logged it in the part of her brain that wasn't ready to relax yet. The next morning, she didn't check out. She extended her stay without blinking. When the front desk asked if she needed anything else, she simply smiled and declined. Her suitcase remained untouched. Her clothes still folded. She made no calls. She answered no emails. She didn't cancel a real flight because there had been no flight to cancel. It was all smoke. She needed time. And tonight would tell her everything. That afternoon, she took a walk near the water. The December air was sharp but refreshing. Her coat hugged her tightly. The breeze tousled her curls, and her boots clicked lightly along the damp wooden boardwalk. Her phone buzzed twice. Desric, how's San Diego? She stared at it for a long time before typing, productive. Late dinner with the team. He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. That was all. Not a miss you, not a question, not a call. She put the phone away. Even in her attempt to catch him in a lie, he was still distant. By the time the sun set, Talia was back in the room. She ordered mint tea and sat by the window, watching the skyline blink alive. Seattle moved on without her, and she was strangely comforted by that. When 9 p.m. came, she refreshed the feed. Nothing yet. The house lights were off. 10:30 p.m., still no movement. At 11:40 p.m., the porch light flicked on. Her breath caught. A car pulled into the driveway. The headlights cast long shadows across the front steps. Her heart began to thump. She sat up straighter, eyes narrowing. The driver's side door opened first. Desric stepped out. He wasn't alone. The passenger door opened, and a woman emerged. Tall, auburn hair, dressed like she didn't care who saw her. Her heels struck the driveway confidently, not like someone sneaking in, but like someone invited. Talia didn't move. She didn't whisper a word. She just watched. Desric opened the front door. The woman entered first. He followed, then closed the door behind them. Talia clicked into the hallway camera. The woman stepped out of her pumps. She reached up and smoothed her hair, glancing briefly into the hallway mirror. Her makeup was still perfect. Her smile, small, rehearsed. Desric stood behind her, watching. Talia couldn't breathe. They disappeared from view. She waited. 10 minutes, then 15. The bedroom camera hadn't picked up motion yet. Then the screen blinked. There they were. The woman now wore a robe. Her robe, the green one. Talia blinked slowly. Her hands rested in her lap, unmoving. Desric sat on the edge of the bed, shirtless, holding a glass of something amber. The woman adjusted the tie on the robe and stood near the window, the city, lights flickering behind her like an audience watching everything unravel. Talia stared at the screen, not because she was shocked, but because her body needed a few extra seconds to feel what she already knew. It wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the robe. It was his face. He didn't look guilty. He looked comfortable, as if this had happened before, as if he had already grieved her absence long ago. She closed the laptop slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't throw anything. She stood, went to the bathroom and washed her face. Her reflection looked older, not tired, just aged, refined, hardened in places. She dressed quietly, changed into a long camel coat, and packed her suitcase with slow, careful hands. At 2:47 a.m., she stepped out of the hotel lobby and into a cab. The driver didn't ask questions. She gave her address. When she reached the townhouse, the street was silent. Her key slid into the lock like it always had. The house smelled the same, lavender and cold air. She walked in, placed her suitcase near the stairs, and removed her coat. Her heels were silent against the hardwood. Upstairs, a low light spilled from under the bedroom door. She climbed the steps without rush. When she pushed the door open, the first thing she saw was the robe. The woman turned, startled. Desric turned too, still seated on the edge of the bed. Talia stood in the doorway. Her eyes held them both in place. No words were needed. "You don't even look surprised," she said, voice calm. Desric's mouth parted, then closed. He set the glass down. The woman clutched the robe tighter, taking an instinctive step back. Talia's eyes didn't flinch. "I came back," she continued, "to confirm what I already knew." Then she turned, walked away, closed the door gently behind her. Downstairs, the air felt lighter. She reached for her suitcase and wheeled it out. She didn't slam the door. She didn't call a friend. She simply walked into the early morning fog and disappeared into it. By the time the sun rose, she was in another place entirely, and in the house behind her, two people sat in silence, wondering why the woman they expected to break had chosen, instead, to disappear without leaving a single piece of herself behind. Talia didn't need revenge. She needed freedom. And some exits don't come with a scream. They come with a quiet that echoes louder than any words ever could. Have you ever stayed silent just to protect someone else's comfort while your heart was breaking? Tell us, what would you have done in Talia's shoes? If this story already has your heart, help us reach more people who need to hear it. Like the video if you've ever chosen peace over chaos. Drop a comment and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter only gets deeper. On Mr. Charles Stories, we don't just tell tales, we tell the truth behind quiet strength. Talia didn't cry. The silence in her friend Celeste's lake house felt like an old friend. It was surrounded by tall pine trees and wrapped in a fog that rarely lifted before noon. The only sound was the slow creak of the floorboards and the occasional call of a loon from the water. She didn't turn on her phone for the first 2 days. No calls, no messages, no news. She cooked simple meals, sipped tea on the back porch, sat wrapped in a throw blanket and watched the water. Inside her chest was an ache that didn't burn. It hummed. It didn't beg for attention. It pulsed quietly like a bruise that had settled in. The robe had done something to her. It wasn't the affair. Affairs can sometimes be confronted, argued over, even forgiven. But wearing her robe, that meant something deeper. It meant comfort. It meant territory. It meant permission. That robe was the last gift he gave her that had felt sincere. It was the only thing she wore on the night of her Forbes feature dinner. He had tied it himself. He had said she looked like peace. Now someone else wore it like it never belonged to her. That was the moment Talia realized she had been erased. And that was unforgivable. By day 3, her phone was full of notifications, missed calls, voicemails, a few texts. From Desric, "Where are you? Please, can we talk? I didn't mean for you to see that. Please don't disappear like this." She didn't reply. Then came a long email. It didn't begin with, "I'm sorry." It began with, "I didn't know how lonely I had become." She read it once, then closed her laptop. By day 5, she reached out to her attorney. She didn't tell Desric she was filing. There would be no discussion, no argument, no counseling suggestion. She had already had all the conversations with herself. She had already begged for connection with her silence. Now, she was ready to choose clarity. By the end of the week, she left the lake house and drove into the city. She didn't go home. She went straight to the firm. She signed the papers quietly. No demands, no press. The townhouse, she didn't want it. The shared investment accounts, she signed them away. She had already paid with something bigger. Years of diminishing joy. Her freedom cost her nothing now. It had already been earned. That night, she sat in a hotel room near the courthouse, slept for 10 hours straight, no interruptions. The next morning, she walked outside with a warm drink and looked up at the grey sky. It was still cloudy, but she felt light. For the first time in a long time, she didn't care what Desric was doing. She wasn't worried about what came next. She was more interested in how she'd feel waking up a month from now. And that thought, simple as it was, brought a small smile to her lips. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not yet. She wasn't ready for sympathy. She was still detoxing from pretending everything was fine. She checked into a short-term loft downtown. 2 rooms, minimal furniture, exposed brick, no mirrors in the hallway. The walls felt quiet, like her. She rolled out her yoga mat, lit a white candle, then opened a new sketchbook and began to draw again. For the first time in 2 years, the lines were shaky. Her hand had forgotten its rhythm. But the page didn't ask her for answers. It just took the marks she gave it and stayed still. That night, she cooked herself a meal. Nothing fancy, just pasta with sautéed mushrooms and lemon. She poured a single glass of wine and sat at the table with soft music playing. And when she closed her eyes, she felt present. Desric didn't call again. At least, not for a while. And Talia was fine with that. Some wounds don't need apologies. They just need time to become scars. And scars, if cared for, don't disappear, but they stop bleeding. The next few weeks moved slowly. She took on only 2 clients, small projects that didn't require much face time. She stayed offline, declined interviews, ignored galas. Her world had shrunk, and yet, for once, it didn't feel suffocating. She didn't miss him, not the man he had become. And the man he used to be, he didn't exist anymore. The love she once had wasn't betrayed. It had died first. The betrayal was simply what confirmed its time of death. On the 4th Sunday of that month, she went to a design showcase at the Edge Gallery. A curator had invited her months ago. She almost didn't go. She hated small talk now, but something inside her whispered, it's time to re-enter. So she dressed in navy slacks, a silk blouse, and kept her makeup light. No red lipstick, no heels, just grace. She stood near a reclaimed wood installation when she heard a voice beside her. Interesting piece. She turned slightly. The man wore dark-rimmed glasses, a charcoal jacket, and a scarf that suggested both intellect and practicality. It is, she replied softly. Do you see the spine in the structure? He asked. The way it almost resembles ribs. She looked again. She did see it. Now I do, she said, meeting his eyes. He extended his hand. Malin. She took it. Talia. They didn't flirt. They spoke gently about form and light and sound design, about how architecture affects emotion, how grief changes the way people arrange furniture. He didn't ask about her work, or her life, or her ring finger. He didn't have to. He could see it. She wasn't ready, but she wasn't broken, and that was enough. After the exhibit, he walked her to her car. He didn't ask for her number. He simply said, if I see you again, I'll ask you what you're drawing. She smiled. Then I better keep sketching. She drove away with the window cracked and one hand resting over her heart. It didn't hurt. It just felt new. The kind of new that doesn't promise anything, but leaves space. And that space was hers. It was nearly 2 weeks before she saw him again. Talia was walking through the art supply section of a boutique store in Capitol Hill. She had just picked up new sketch paper, her second pad since the lake house. Her fingers were stained with charcoal from testing samples. She wasn't looking for anyone. She wasn't wearing anything remarkable, just a long beige coat, sneakers and a cozy scarf. She had paused to flip through a display of hand-stitched notebooks when she heard a voice behind her. "Did you keep sketching?" She turned. Malin stood near the aisle's end, holding a set of drafting pencils. His expression was warm, curious, not pushy. She laughed before she could think, not forced, genuine. "I did," she said, lifting the pad in her hand as proof. He smiled. "I'm glad." They walked through the shop together, speaking like people who'd already known each other once before in another life. No rush, no pressure, just steady rhythm. Outside, the wind picked up. She hugged her coat tighter. Malin hesitated. "Would you let me buy you tea?" Talia looked up at the sky. The clouds were soft and quiet, much like the afternoon. "I'd like that," she said. They walked to a nearby cafe, one tucked into a corner of the block, with fogged-up windows and faint jazz humming in the background. They chose a table near the back, where the light hit them gently but didn't draw attention. He ordered mint tea. She did too. He didn't ask what happened to her. She didn't offer. Instead, they talked about their earliest memories of beauty. He said his grandmother used to press flowers into books and call it architecture for the soul. Talia shared how she once rearranged her mother's entire bedroom when she was 8 because the sunlight wasn't falling right on the bed. Malin laughed. "You've been designing peace since childhood." That line stayed with her. She sipped her tea slowly, watching the way he didn't fill silence with performance. He didn't fidget. He didn't look at his phone. He let pauses stretch. And somehow, those pauses didn't feel awkward. They felt safe. He asked her how she saw homes, emotionally, not functionally. She answered without hesitation. "A good home doesn't start with walls. It starts with relief. If you don't breathe deeper when you walk in, it's not home." He nodded like he understood that deeply. They sat for over an hour. When they stepped outside, the air had turned colder. She shivered slightly. Without a word, he removed his scarf and gently wrapped it around her neck. She started to object. He stopped her with one soft glance. "It's not about keeping you warm. It's about reminding you someone noticed." She didn't say anything, but her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't romantic. It was attentive. And after what she'd lived through, attention, even patient attention, was intimacy. They parted with no promises, no phone number exchanged, just a smile and a nod. But that night, Talia couldn't sleep, not because she was confused, but because, for the first time in months, she felt something that wasn't sadness, grief, or anger. She felt curious. The next day, she found herself sketching again, but this time with more intention. The lines were bolder, the corners curved with softness she hadn't allowed in her designs before. It wasn't just healing, it was shaping something new. 3 days later, she opened her email. A message from an unfamiliar address. Subject line, "About that scarf." Inside was a simple note. "You left a scent of eucalyptus on it. I didn't want to wash it off, but if you'd like to return it. Coffee this time?" Malin. She smiled at the screen for a long time before replying, "Let's keep it at tea. I'm not ready for coffee yet." Talia. They met again at the same cafe. This time, she arrived first. This time she had drawn a small sketch of a bench under a tree with 2 mugs placed side by side. She didn't show it to him, but it sat folded in her coat pocket. Tea came. Conversation flowed. He still didn't pry, but he told her he'd been through his own quiet losses. He didn't detail them. He didn't weaponize them. He simply said, "I know how silence can be both a shield and a wound." She nodded. That was enough. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. They met on walks, shared playlists. One evening, he showed her his favorite building, a library with skylights shaped like prisms. He said it reminded him of her energy, focused, but full of refracted color. On their 4th outing, they sat at a park bench overlooking the water. He reached for her hand, not all at once. He simply placed his hand near hers. She turned hers over, let her fingers rest inside his palm. no kiss, just warmth, just presence. She didn't tell him about Desric yet. She didn't need to. He was showing her what trust could feel like without the weight of explanation, and that was a new kind of freedom, one she wasn't used to, but one she wanted to learn. That night, she unwrapped the scarf he had given her, pressed it to her face, and let herself cry, not because she was sad, but because she finally felt seen without having to perform strength. She cried because someone had finally looked at her, not for what she held together, but for what she had survived quietly. And that was the first night in months she didn't dream about betrayal. She dreamed about a bench, under a tree, 2 mugs, and a hand reaching toward hers, without taking, without pressing, without pretending, just resting there, willing to stay. 8 months had passed, 8 quiet, clean, necessary months. Talia no longer flinched when the doorbell rang. She no longer scanned faces when she walked into events. She no longer checked if he'd seen her posts, because she didn't post. Her life had gone offline, not to hide, but to heal. Her name was still relevant in design circles. Reverie and Oak had gained attention again, this time for its emotional architecture initiative. She'd started speaking once a month at wellness and design conferences, not about betrayal, about space, about what safety should feel like. One of her talks was titled, "When the room doesn't feel like yours anymore, leave it." It went viral in a quiet corner of the internet. Therapists quoted her. Clients reached out. Brands offered her collaborations. Still, she stayed grounded. She wore neutral tones, kept her nails bare, her voice steady. On a cool Friday afternoon, she stood backstage at a downtown venue preparing for a panel on designing for emotional recovery. The lighting tech adjusted her mic. The moderator whispered timing cues. The audience, she was told, was packed. She hadn't checked the list of attendees. She never did, because she wasn't running from him. She simply stopped expecting him to show up. The panel began with applause. 3 designers, 1 moderator. Talia was the last to speak. When it was her turn, she stood without notes, looked out at the crowd, and paused. In the 4th row, slightly left of center, sat Desric. She registered him instantly. His coat was charcoal, his hair shorter, his face thinner. He looked up at her, the way someone looks at a closed door they once built, and then walked through without checking what was on the other side. She didn't react. She didn't shift her tone. She simply began. Design is more than structure. It's the message your home whispers when you walk in. It's the question it asks your nervous system. Are you safe here? The room leaned in. Good architecture does more than hold your books. It holds your silence, your softness, your slow return to self. She didn't break eye contact with the audience. She didn't give Desric a moment of recognition. She gave herself all of it. After the panel, people gathered to speak with her. Compliments, business cards, questions. She smiled, answered kindly, but her eyes stayed clear. She didn't look for him, and still he came. He waited by the side door, not in the open, not where others could see. When the hallway thinned, he stepped forward. Talia, she turned. Desric. His name didn't sound angry, just finished. He searched her eyes for something, entry maybe, familiarity. He found neither. You look, well, he said. I am. He nodded slowly. His hands remained in his coat pockets. She waited. I was wrong, he said. Not just that night. Before that, I let things fade. I let us disappear and pretended it wasn't happening. She didn't rush to fill the silence. He went on. You were right to leave. I see it now. She watched him carefully. I don't need closure, Desric, she said softly. I already closed the door. He blinked. His mouth tightened. Regret sat heavy in his face. I know, he said. I just needed to tell you. I remember who you were, and I wish I had held that better. She nodded once. Take care of yourself. Then she turned and walked away. No grand goodbye, no lingering, just the sound of her heels fading into the hallway until he stood alone in the quiet he once mistook for comfort. Outside, the city buzzed. Malin waited across the street, leaning casually against a bench. He wore a light blue sweater, holding 2 coffees. When he saw her, he smiled. She crossed the road, took the cup from his hand. He didn't ask what happened. She didn't say, but her hands were steady, and that was enough. They walked slowly. No rush, no performance. She sipped her drink, exhaled, and looked up at the sky. There was still grey above, but in her chest, it felt like sunrise. Talia didn't tell Malin about seeing Desric until they were already home. He had made her laugh 3 times between the venue and the front door. Not big laughs, just small exhales of warmth. His kind of humor wasn't flashy. It wasn't rehearsed. It was timing, honesty, and knowing when not to say anything at all. They walked into her loft together. She had left the curtains open. City lights from across the bridge painted slow-moving patterns on the hardwood floor. He removed his shoes without being asked. She unwrapped her scarf and hung it on the hook by the door. Malin set the coffee cups on the kitchen island and opened her fridge like he'd been there many times before, even though it was only his 3rd visit. "You stocked more tea," he noted, lifting a tin. "You drank all the jasmine last time," she replied, voice light. He smiled. "It was good. And your mugs make tea taste more expensive." Talia poured water into the kettle and leaned against the counter. Then she said calmly, "He was there." Malin looked at her, quietly, no interruption. "Desric," she added, "at the talk today." Malin didn't flinch. What did he say? He apologized. Malin took that in, waited. "Did it feel sincere?" he asked. She nodded once, maybe. "But it doesn't matter. It's late. That chapter's not open." Malin didn't ask more. He pulled 2 mugs down from the shelf, filled the silence with his presence, not with pressure. And that's when she realized she felt safer in a 3-minute silence with Malin than she had in 5 years of perfect sentences with Desric. They moved to the living area after tea. She turned on soft music, instrumental, low brass and woodwind, nothing with lyrics. He settled on the couch. She curled beside him. No touch yet. Not until she reached up and tucked a curl behind her ear, and he mirrored, the motion with a gentle hand, fingers brushing her temple like a breeze. His hand didn't linger. It returned to his lap. That's what made it feel real. No rush, no performance. She shifted her body slightly, resting her head on his shoulder. He adjusted, not to take more, but to make space. "I used to think silence was loneliness," she said softly, "but I think I confused distance with stillness." His fingers moved gently across the back of her hand, not tracing, just connecting. "Stillness is what happens when you finally stop begging the room to love you back," he replied. She closed her eyes. It wasn't about forgetting Desric. It was about no longer needing to shape herself to be tolerable. With Malin, she didn't need to perform softness. She was soft. He didn't need her to shrink. He left space. It had been months since anyone touched her without expectation. It had been years since someone looked at her like presence was enough. She turned slightly, placing her palm against his chest. His heart beat slow, steady, and when she looked up, his eyes met hers, not intense, not searching, just open. She leaned in, not fully, just halfway. He met her there. Their kiss wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, real, the kind that says, "I know you're still healing. I'm not here to rush that." They kissed slowly, once, then twice, then stopped, not because they needed to, but because they respected the pause. He rested his forehead against hers. "Whatever you need," he whispered. Talia exhaled. Her breath shook a little. "I need to not be afraid of being seen." "You're safe," he said, like a promise. And she believed him, because he hadn't made her feel like a survivor. He made her feel like a woman who still had more to become. Later that night, he stood at her door with one hand on the knob. "Stay?" she asked. His eyes searched hers. Only if you want slow, she added. I only know slow, he said, with a gentle smile. So he stayed. They brushed their teeth in silence. He wore a soft white tee. She changed into her robe, not the green one. That had been left at the lake house. This one was slate grey, thick cotton, no memory attached. They climbed into bed, no expectations, no plans, just warmth. He didn't reach for her. She curled toward him. He welcomed her with arms that held, not claimed. They slept that way, breathing the same rhythm. And when she woke up hours later, his hand was still wrapped around hers. Still, not moving, not wanting more. Just there, exactly as promised. Morning came with light pouring through her east-facing windows. She moved first, stretching lightly. He stirred, then blinked awake. Good morning, he said, voice husky. She smiled. It is. He reached for his phone, checked the time, then slid it back onto the nightstand without scrolling. Want breakfast? He asked. She nodded. Let's cook. He followed her into the kitchen. No music this time, just the sound of oil in the pan, eggs cracking, toast popping up. They moved around each other without choreography, like they'd done it before. And when they sat down, he looked at her plate. You still peel your orange slices, he said. She looked up, surprised. You notice that? I notice everything. After breakfast, he helped her tidy up. He didn't linger, didn't overstay. He kissed her cheek and left with a simple, text me when you want to see me again. No pressure, no control, just a door left open. That afternoon, she pulled out her sketchbook and drew him. Not his face, just his hands, one resting palm up, the other loosely curled, like it had been when holding hers. She labeled the page, Trust Looks Like This, and for the first time in years, she believed it. Talia didn't expect peace to feel so unfamiliar. It came in quiet doses. A full night's sleep without checking her phone. Long walks with her headphones in but no music playing. Mornings where she made breakfast because she wanted to, not because someone was expecting her to. She had spent years curating her home to feel like sanctuary, but now, for the first time, she was becoming one. Her loft reflected her shift. She swapped the hard-edged black chairs for curved walnut ones, bought a rug she once thought was too playful, let the kitchen stay messy until noon sometimes, left her shoes by the door without lining them up perfectly. It wasn't laziness. It was liberation. She had stopped performing perfection, and yet the memory of her former marriage still lingered, not as heartbreak, but as warning. The way she used to shrink to make space for Desric's moods. The way she used to reread her texts to him 3 times to make sure they didn't sound too much. The way she had taught herself to take care of both their needs so smoothly that he forgot she had any of her own. That wasn't love. It was quiet survival. Now, when Malin came over, he didn't ask her to host. He walked in, kissed her forehead, and asked how her body felt that day. Not her schedule, not her workload, her body. That alone made her breathe differently. One afternoon, they sat on the floor of her living room, surrounded by paint samples. She was redesigning her studio space, something bold, something different. Malin watched her lay out swatches with a look of soft focus. You're not building for approval anymore, he said. She looked at him, curious. He pointed at her choices. That saffron yellow, that dusty rose, you wouldn't have touched those a year ago. She laughed. You're right. I used to think color had to prove sophistication. And now it just has to feel honest. He leaned back on his elbows. That's growth. She paused, then said quietly, I used to think growth had to look like elevation. Higher, better, more polished. Malin shook his head. Sometimes growth looks like softness, like letting go of sharp corners. She nodded slowly. He was right. Her old life had been perfectly composed. On paper, a husband with power, a home with status, a reputation with polish. But inside, she had been a room with no windows. Now she was letting the light in, even if it meant sitting with dust for a while. Later that week, she she found an old journal, buried in a box she hadn't opened since the move. She flipped through the pages. At first, they were filled with design notes, client sketches, color stories. Then came the pages from year 3 of her marriage. The handwriting was neat. Too neat. One page read, "He said he's tired. I'll try not to need as much next week." Another, "He didn't like dinner. I'll look for a new recipe." Another, "I asked him to come to my award ceremony. He didn't respond. Maybe I said it wrong." Talia closed the book. Tears didn't fall, but her jaw tightened. She had documented her own erasure, like it was normal, like it was love. She left the journal on the counter. Malin came by that evening with groceries. He saw the book, but didn't touch it. He kissed her cheek. "You okay?" She nodded. "Just met an old version of myself." Did she say anything? She said thank you for not abandoning her. Malin smiled softly. They made soup that night, sat on the couch with bowls in their laps, and watched a documentary about minimalist homes. At one point, the host said, "Sometimes we build walls for safety, but forget to build doors to let joy in." Talia set her bowl down. "That," she whispered. "That was me." Malin took her hand. "I see you now," he said. She believed him, because for once, she didn't have to earn being seen. She simply had to stay. Talia didn't mean to freeze, but it happened, swiftly, quietly, on a Tuesday morning while folding laundry. She had just finished her second client call and was switching out a load when Malin walked in, holding a small envelope. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a white card, hand-addressed in thick ink. "You got mail," he said, setting it on the edge of the dryer. Talia turned slowly. Her stomach tightened. She knew that handwriting. Desric. She didn't say anything, didn't reach for it. Her hands stayed on a folded towel, still and tense. Malin noticed. He didn't ask, but he waited. She felt the heaviness rising in her chest. Old responses triggered by the memory of how many times she'd received. Things from Desric that looked like gifts but felt like chains. "He doesn't usually send letters," she finally said. Malin didn't move. "You don't have to open it," he said. Talia's eyes met his. "I want to," but she didn't touch it. Not yet. She finished folding the last towel, placed it neatly in the basket, and then sat on the stool near the window. Malin stayed by the doorway. She opened the envelope. Inside was a card. No name, no return address, just a message. "I saw your interview. I understand now what you meant by space. I hope you're building what you always needed. No apology, no signature, just quiet acknowledgement." Talia stared at the card for a long time, then handed it to Malin. He read it once, handed it back. "That was vague," he said plainly. Talia let out a small laugh. That was Desric. She didn't cry, she didn't rage, but her hands trembled a little. "It still affects you," Malin said gently. "I don't want it to," she replied. "It's okay that it does." She looked up at him. "What if I never stop reacting to the past?" He walked over, crouched beside her. "Talia, healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means knowing what you're reacting to and choosing differently." She nodded slowly. "I need to name it." "Go ahead." He made me feel like my needs were interruptions, like my feelings made me harder to love. Malin didn't blink. "I see that, but that's not love. That's training someone to abandon themselves for you." Talia inhaled sharply. That word, training, hit somewhere deep. She whispered, "I didn't even realize I was being trained. Most people don't, not until they leave the arena." He reached for her hand. She let him take it. They sat like that for a few minutes, quiet, connected, no pressure to perform. Later that day, they went for a walk. Seattle's weather was moody as always. Grey skies hovered, but the air felt fresh. They stopped at a food truck for lunch, vegan noodles and ginger lemonade. They sat on a park bench overlooking the water. Talia leaned into Malin, shoulder brushing his. She said, "I don't want to be afraid of letters. You don't have to be." but I also don't want to pretend I'm okay with everything. He nodded. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel. I'm still learning how to do that in front of someone else. He squeezed her hand. I'm still learning how to hold that space. They sat in silence, both letting the tension fall away piece by piece. When they returned home, Talia didn't put the letter away. She pinned it to the corkboard in her home office. Not to remember Desric, but to remember how far she'd come. That evening, Malin offered to cook. She let him. He chopped vegetables with rhythm and care. Talia watched from the bar stool, sipping herbal tea. She said, "Can I ask you something?" He turned. "Anything. Have you ever been in a relationship where you forgot who you were?" He thought for a moment. "Yes, but I didn't realize it until it was over. I kept getting smaller, thinking I was compromising. Turns out, I was disappearing." Talia felt her throat tighten. "I used to think disappearing was part of loving someone." He walked over and placed his hands gently on her waist. "You don't have to do that with me." "I know," she said, "but some parts of me still don't believe it." "Then I'll remind them," he said softly. "Every time." She rested her forehead against his chest. That night, they made love for the first time. Not urgently, not to forget, but to remember. To remember softness, slowness, the kind of intimacy that waits for permission at every step. It wasn't perfect. She flinched once, unexpected, unplanned, when he touched the small of her back a certain way. He stopped immediately. She froze. "I'm okay," she whispered. He moved his hand. "You don't have to be." She looked up at him. "I'm tired of being strong," she said. "You don't need to be." She let go, and in that letting go, something shifted. Not because it was physical, but because it was honest. Because for the first time in a long time, she was allowed to exist inside her body without proving anything. Afterward, they laid there in the dark, his hand in her hair, her cheek on his chest, breathing in sync. He whispered, "Thank you for trusting me." She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Thank you for not taking it." He kissed her forehead, and they fell asleep, with no stories left untold between them. The world hadn't changed, but Talia had. She felt it in the way she walked into meetings now, straight-backed, calm-eyed, no longer checking herself twice before speaking, no longer waiting for validation. The design community had taken notice too. Her inbox overflowed with requests for panels, interviews, collaborations. She turned most of them down, not because she was hiding, but because not everything deserved her energy. But one email stayed open on her screen for days, an invitation to consult on a high-profile wellness retreat in Napa. It was a dream project, a sprawling space dedicated to healing, rest, and emotional transformation. The problem? The project was being led by a design firm that once overlooked her, publicly and unapologetically. 3 years ago, she had pitched a concept to them that was dismissed in 30 minutes. The lead architect had said, "You're talented, but you design too emotionally. We're looking for cleaner lines, less feeling." They had taken her idea, tweaked it, and won an award with it 6 months later. No credit, no acknowledgement. And now they wanted her back, not as a subordinate, but as a guest expert. Her name carried weight now. She stared at the screen for a long time. Malin walked in mid-afternoon, carrying a bag of groceries. He dropped a kiss on her temple and asked what she was working on. She didn't answer right away. He set the bag down and looked over her shoulder. "That's a big ask," he said. She nodded. "They burned me before. Are you afraid of them doing it again?" She shook her head. "No, I'm afraid of forgetting who I've become if I walk into a room where I used to disappear." Malin leaned against the counter. "You won't forget," he said. "Not this time. Because now, you're not trying to be invited. They're the ones doing the asking." His words sank in slowly. Still, she hesitated. That night, she didn't mention it again. They cooked, they read, they held each other, but she didn't sleep. She lay awake thinking not about revenge, not about recognition, but about legacy. What did she want her presence in the industry to stand for? Resentment or redefinition? By morning, Her answer was clear. She accepted the offer, but on her terms. She requested a single-day consulting role, limited rights to her designs, and full acknowledgement in all public-facing materials. They agreed, quickly. That told her everything. 3 weeks later, she arrived in Napa. The retreat was still under construction, foundations laid, frames going up. The sun baked the hillside in golden light, and the air smelled of lavender and fresh concrete. She stepped out of the car, wearing linen slacks and a loose top. No makeup, hair pulled back. Power didn't have to dress loud. Inside the temporary studio space, she was greeted by a young assistant with wide eyes and fast words. "They're all really excited you came, the lead architects in the main pavilion, but we were told to let you walk the grounds first. Alone, if you preferred." She nodded, took the plans, walked outside, and wandered. The wind tugged gently at her blouse. The open land whispered of possibility. She stood by the unfinished meditation deck and closed her eyes. She could already see it finished, not just the structure, but the energy. Soft sound, dappled light, stone warmed by afternoon sun, rooms that didn't echo but held. She sketched briefly on her tablet. When she returned to the pavilion, the lead architect was waiting. Jora Lin, the same woman who had once dismissed her with a clipped tone and a folded file. This time, Jora stood to greet her. "Talia," she said, offering her hand. "Thank you for coming." Talia shook it. "Thank you for inviting me." Jora gestured toward the table of plans. "We've outlined most of the space, but it's not breathing yet. That's why we brought you in." Talia studied the designs. They were clean, technically correct. "You've built a beautiful structure," she said. "Now you need a soul." Jora didn't flinch. She nodded. "We know." Talia pointed out where they needed warmth, narrowed hallways that should open into rest, lighting that needed to dim with the body's rhythms, corners that needed softening. And then she placed her sketch over their layout. It fit, not perfectly, but meaningfully. Jora stared at it for a long moment, then said quietly, "You were always ahead. I just wasn't ready to understand it." Talia didn't answer right away. Then, with a small smile, she said, "Understanding doesn't always come before the lesson." They worked together for 4 hours. No tension, no competition, just clarity. When she left, the team clapped, not for her name, but for what she left behind. Outside, she stood by the car and let the sunlight rest on her face. She didn't feel vindicated. She felt steady, like the version of herself who once left that firm disappointed had finally been seen, not by them, but by her. Back at home, Malin was painting her kitchen wall. He had picked out a rich sage green. She walked in and smiled. "You're bold," she said. "You needed more green in your life," he replied. She set down her bag, kicked off her shoes, and stepped toward him. "I said yes," she told him, "and I didn't lose myself." He kissed her slowly, no rush. "No one could take you now," he said. Talia smiled, but deep inside she knew it wasn't that no one could take her. It was that she no longer offered herself to rooms that didn't know how to hold her. Talia had always known closure wasn't a door someone else had to open, but she hadn't expected to find one more door cracked open from the past. It came on a Wednesday, unexpected. She was at a private industry brunch, an intimate roundtable for women entrepreneurs hosted in a rooftop garden. 40 women, soft jazz playing, linen napkins folded like origami, and glasses of cucumber water catching sunlight. Talia had spoken earlier that morning about designing from recovery. She hadn't gone deep into her story, but everyone there knew. They always did. Not the details, but the weight, the way her voice carried history. She was standing by a planter, sipping tea, when a voice behind her said her name. Not loud, not tentative, measured, familiar. "Talia?" She turned. There she was, Hazel Carr, the woman Desric had brought into their bedroom. She hadn't seen her since that night. Talia had frozen her out of memory, intentionally, not with hatred, but with focus. She never looked up her name, never asked who she was, never needed to. But now, here she stood, in a cream blouse, tailored pants, soft brown curls over one shoulder. Talia stared. Hazel spoke first. "I didn't think I'd ever run into you in a room like this." Talia didn't answer right away. She let her body catch up. Let the air settle. Hazel's eyes didn't flinch. "I won't take your time," she said. "But if you'll let me, I'd like to say something." Talia gestured toward a small table nearby. "Say it sitting down." They walked over. Hazel waited until they were both seated before speaking. "I didn't know who you were. At first, he never said your name. Not until I saw a framed photo on his shelf one morning. And even then, I asked. He said you were gone." Talia listened, her expression unchanged. "I wasn't proud," Hazel said, "but I believed him. That's not an excuse. I just didn't look deeper." Talia tilted her head slightly. "But you stayed." Hazel nodded slowly. "I did." There was no defensiveness in her tone, only fact. "I stayed until I couldn't ignore what I was participating in." Talia exhaled softly. Hazel continued. "When you walked in that night, I knew I was the reason something cracked, but I also saw something in your eyes that shook me." "What was that?" Talia asked. "Stillness," Hazel said, "but not numb. It was like a woman who already knew, who had already decided she wouldn't break." Talia's eyes softened, but her spine stayed straight. Hazel looked down at her lap. "I walked out the next morning. I haven't spoken to him since. And I don't need anything from you. But I've carried that night for a long time." "Because you regret it?" Talia asked. "Because I learned from it," Hazel said. "And because I respect what you did, how you did it. You didn't scream. You didn't tear me down. You left with your name intact." Talia's throat tightened. She thought she had buried that moment so deep, it no longer breathed. But now, with Hazel in front of her, sincere, unpolished, apologizing without performance, it stirred again. Not anger, just recognition. Hazel met her gaze. "I needed to say, I'm sorry, even if I'm 10 months late." Talia looked away for a moment, then back. "You didn't owe me silence that night," she said, "but you owed me truth. And I got neither." Hazel nodded. "I understand." Talia leaned back slightly. "I'm not angry," she said, "but I don't need a thread to you. I let go of that house, that man, that version of myself." "I know," Hazel said quietly. Talia stood. Hazel did too. They didn't hug. They didn't linger. But as Talia turned to leave, she paused. "I hope you became someone you don't have to apologize for anymore." Hazel's eyes glistened. She nodded once. "I'm trying every day." Talia walked away. The rooftop buzzed with conversation, glasses clinking, laughter rising, sunlight catching silverware. But in Talia's chest, a quiet weight lifted. Not forgiveness, not friendship, just release. Later that evening, she told Malin. They were lying on a blanket in Volunteer Park, watching the sky fade to navy, a bottle of elderflower soda between them. "She apologized," Talia said. Malin didn't interrupt. "She didn't try to explain too much," she continued. "She didn't beg, but she also didn't perform remorse. Did it matter?" he asked. Talia thought for a moment. "It mattered that I didn't need to fall apart," she said. "That I could sit across from her and not feel like a cracked version of myself." He reached for her hand. "That's because you're not cracked," he said. She smiled, then added, "I told her I let go of that version of me. I think I said it to remind myself." Malin brushed his thumb over her knuckles. "Then say it again." She turned to him, her voice steady. "I'm not who I was." "Who are you?" he asked gently. She looked up at the sky. "I'm someone who doesn't ask for love to stay. I invite it. And if it leaves, I don't chase." Malin leaned in and kissed her shoulder. "That's the most whole answer I've ever heard." They stayed there until the stars became bold. And Talia, for the first time in a long time, didn't feel like someone who had survived something. She felt like someone who had arrived. The weekend arrived with light rain and no rush. Talia loved weekends like that, where the sky gave no deadlines and the wind felt like permission to stay home. Her windows fogged gently with the scent of simmering apples and cinnamon, a potpourri she'd thrown together from memory and instinct. Malin had slept over the night before. They hadn't made any plans, and that felt sacred. She padded barefoot into the kitchen, hair loosely tied, wearing a thick cardigan that still held his cologne from the night before. He was standing at the stove, flipping pancakes like it was second nature. "Morning," he said without turning. "Morning," she replied, settling at the island. "Are you making your famous too thin pancakes again?" "They're not too thin," he protested. "They're elegantly crisp." She smirked. "They're see-through." "Exactly. Sophisticated." He turned with the spatula held like a trophy. She held up her hands in surrender. "Fine. Impress me, culinary artist." He plated them carefully, sliding over a tray with sliced mango, warmed maple syrup, and 2 mugs of chai. Talia took a bite. Her eyebrows lifted. "Okay, you win. These are thinner than last time, but weirdly better. Thank you. I've mastered my craft." They ate quietly for a while, the kind of quiet that didn't need to be filled. After a few minutes, Malin leaned back. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous," Talia said with a smile. He nodded, acknowledging the tease. "But seriously," he said, "we've never talked about what this could be long-term. Us." Talia set her fork down slowly. Malin held up a hand. "Not because I need to define anything today, just I've realized I don't want to drift into something by default. I want us to be intentional, even in our not knowing." She exhaled. "I used to plan everything," she said, "down to the number of steps between my bedroom and kitchen. My old life was made of blueprints, and still, I couldn't stop it from falling apart." Malin nodded. "But now," she continued, "I live more by feel, by how something makes me breathe, how it makes me sleep, how it sits in my body. And you, Malin, you sit easy." He reached across the island and held her hand. "That's all I need to know," he said. "But I'm not afraid to look ahead anymore," she added. "Good, because I want to build something. And I don't mean a timeline, I mean a rhythm." She tilted her head. "A rhythm? A way of being with each other that grows us both, even if we don't have the same walls, or titles, or paths." Talia thought for a long moment. "I want a rhythm too. One where I can be fully me, loud on some days, silent on others, whole even when I'm tired, and loved even when I'm not performing." "You are," Malin said. "I know," she whispered. They finished breakfast, washed the dishes together, then curled up on the couch while the rain tapped the windows gently. Later, Talia pulled out an old album. Photos of her childhood, her college years, her first apartment. Malin flipped through the pages, pausing often. "You were bold," he said, pointing to a photo of her in oversized yellow sunglasses, holding up a sold sign in front of her first design contract. "I was," she said. "I forgot that for a while." He turned the page. There was a picture of her and Desric, back when they were still smiling. She reached over and removed the photo. "I keep it to remind myself what survival looked like, but I don't need to display it anymore." She tucked it in an envelope and slid it into the back pocket of the album. Malin didn't say anything. He didn't need to. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I've started thinking about what I want my home to feel like. Not just the furniture, but the air. And I want it to smell like forgiveness and ginger tea. I want the walls to echo music, not silence. I want there to be room for my emotions, not just space for my work." He kissed her temple. "You'll build that," he said. "Maybe we'll build that," she replied. A few hours later, they took a walk. The rain had stopped, but the air was still thick with the scent of pine and wet stone. They passed a small bookstore and ducked inside. Talia picked up a book on grief. Malin picked up a book on architectural symbolism. They exchanged them and laughed. He bought hers. She bought his. When they got home, she set the grief book on her nightstand, not because she was grieving, but because healing isn't linear, and some days, the body remembers what the mind has already forgiven. That night, Talia stood by her bedroom window. She watched the city move beneath her, lights blinking like quiet stories being told in 100 homes. Malin came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Do you still feel safe with me?" he asked softly. "Yes," she whispered, "more than ever." He rested his chin on her shoulder. "I want you to know," he said, "that I don't need you to be healed to be worthy. I need you to be honest. That's it." She turned in his arms. "I used to think love required achievement. Now I know it requires presence. You're here," he said. "And I'm staying," she replied. They stood like that, holding each other without hurry. No clock ticking, no urgency to arrive, because they already had. The email came on a Thursday afternoon, subject line, "Keynote opportunity. You are the voice we need." Talia almost didn't open it. She had become selective about where she poured her energy. Every platform wanted a piece of her now, but not all invitations were aligned with her peace. This one, though, was different. It was from the Grace and Ground Foundation, a national organization advocating for women rebuilding after betrayal, abuse, or identity loss. They were hosting their annual summit in New York. 3 days of panels, workshops, healing circles. They wanted her to open the second day with a keynote, not on design, on dignity. The pitch was simple. "We're asking 5 women to tell the truth about what they walked away from, what they kept quiet, what they gave themselves back. We think your voice is necessary." Talia read it 3 times. She closed her laptop, walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water and stared out the window. Then she called Malin. "I've been asked to speak publicly," she said. He didn't ask by who. He just said, "Do you want to?" "I think I do." "Then say yes." She took a breath. "I'm scared." "Good," he replied. "That means it matters." She said yes that evening. The organizers sent over a loose structure. No slides, no time limit, no rules. Just truth. She stared at the blank document for 2 days. How do you tell a story that nearly erased you? How do you talk about silence in a way that doesn't scream? On the 3rd night, she pulled out her journal. Not the old one from her marriage, a fresh one. Sage green. She wrote in long sentences, not polished ones, just honest ones. She wrote about the dinners that felt like interviews, the birthdays that ended with apology flowers, the night she came home early and stopped being a wife without needing a signature. She didn't write it all, but she wrote enough. When she boarded the flight to New York, she carried only 1 bag and that journal. No cue cards, no prepared speech, just herself. The summit was held in a historic hotel near Bryant Park. Women from all over the country had flown in. The air was thick with a quiet kind of courage. The morning passed with 2 panels. Then a lunch break. Then her name was called. She stepped onto the stage in a soft black dress, no jewelry, hair pulled into a low knot. The lights weren't blinding. The room was full, but not loud. She looked out and began. I didn't lose myself overnight. That's the first thing I want to say. A pause. It happened in polite conversations, in withheld affection, in the way I apologized when he forgot my birthday, because I thought I hadn't reminded him gently enough. Some women nodded, some didn't move. Talia continued, I didn't leave my marriage because of one woman, or one night. I left because I'd been gone for years and no one noticed. Another pause. I used to think strength meant staying, working through it, being the bigger person. But sometimes strength means walking away quietly, before you forget what your own voice sounds like. She didn't cry. Her voice didn't shake. But every word hit like a still wave, unrushed, unflinching. I'm not here to give you steps. I'm not a coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a woman who looked around one day and realized the house I was building was beautiful, but I didn't live in it anymore. The room was silent. I told myself that leaving meant failure, that I wasn't tough enough, that I hadn't tried everything. But now I know, leaving isn't failure, it's clarity, She stepped back slightly. In my old life, I was always editing myself. Softer voice, smaller needs, strategic smiles. I called it compromise. It was erasure. Now, some women wiped their cheeks. Others held hands across the aisle. Talia closed her journal. I don't want your pity. I want you to remember who you were before you started shrinking. A soft wave of claps began. Not loud, but rising. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm rebuilding, with less noise, more color, and a refusal to ever be anything less than fully present in my own life. She stepped back, and the room stood, not because of a performance, but because of recognition. Afterward, she didn't linger near the stage. She slipped outside to the terrace and leaned on the railing, letting the wind press against her chest like a steady hand. A woman approached, older, silver-streaked curls, red nails. You just told my story, she said. Talia smiled. No, she replied. You already lived it. I just gave it back to you in a different voice. That night, she went back to her hotel, took a long bath, and stared at the ceiling. She wasn't buzzing from adrenaline. She was humming from alignment. She called Malin. He answered in one ring. How did it go? He asked. I was clear, she said. Then you were perfect. She smiled in the dark and whispered, thank you. He didn't say you're welcome. He said, keep telling it. Every time you do, you free someone else. Talia hadn't seen her mother in over a year, not because of distance, not because of conflict, but because they had built a routine of not going too deep. They spoke on birthdays, holidays, and sometimes in between, but never about the hard things. Their relationship was more updates than connection, more summary than story. It had always been that way. Her mother, Nadine, was raised by silence, and she passed it down like china, delicate, polished, and only brought out when company came. Talia had learned how to be strong from her mother, but not how to be soft. And now, after all this growth, all this reshaping, she felt something still untouched, like a room she hadn't entered in her own house. After her keynote in New York, a text came in. From Nadine, I watched your talk. You spoke with power. If you're open to it, I'd like to see you. It wasn't warm, but it was rare, and that made it important. Talia waited a day, then replied, come for tea. Sunday, noon. Sunday came with sun, a cool, dry breeze that made the curtains dance in slow rhythm. Talia set out cups, fresh bread, honey, fruit, and 2 linen napkins she had kept from a Paris trip she never took. At 12:02, there was a knock. She opened the door, and there stood Nadine Wren. Polished as always, cream blouse, pearl earrings, neutral lipstick. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her posture was still impeccable. Hello, Talia, she said. Hi, Mom. They kissed cheeks, exchanged gentle glances, and moved into the kitchen. They sat. Talia poured the tea. Nadine sipped first, then nodded. Chamomile, just like when you were little. You used to say it was for keeping the noise down, Talia replied. Her mother gave a small smile. You were never loud. Even when you cried, Talia let that sit, then spoke. I'm glad you watched the talk. I did, Nadine said. You stood like your grandmother, tall, still, not rattled. Talia tilted her head slightly. I wasn't rattled, but I was honest. I know. Silence hovered. Talia didn't break it. Finally, Nadine set her cup down. I didn't teach you how to ask for what you needed, she said. Talia blinked. That's true. I taught you how to manage, how to endure, but not how to be heard. You taught me how to carry a full plate without letting anyone see it shake. Her mother looked down. I thought I was protecting you, making you capable. You made me efficient, controlled, but not known. That hit something. Nadine inhaled slowly. Your father was unpredictable. I kept the house like glass because any sound felt like a threat. I thought if I kept everything quiet, nothing would crack. Talia's throat tightened. You kept us quiet so nothing would echo. Nadine nodded. And I never told you when I was tired, she added. Because I thought tired mothers make their children feel unsafe. I would have understood, Talia said. I didn't know how to be held, Nadine replied. So I didn't teach you. The table felt heavy with truths. Talia reached for her mother's hand. Nadine hesitated, then let it rest there. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Nadine said, "When you left your husband, I thought it was weakness." Talia flinched slightly. "But now," her mother continued, "I know it was wisdom. Why didn't you call me then?" Talia asked softly. "I didn't know what to say. You could have said you believed me." Nadine swallowed. "I do now." Talia nodded, eyes misted but not falling. "I needed your voice then." "I know," her mother whispered. "I gave you silence instead. The only thing I knew." They sat that way, hands connected, grief between them not sharp, but shared. Later, Nadine stood and walked to the window. "This home feels like breath," she said. "I've never had a home like this." Talia rose and stood beside her. "I made it for the woman I was becoming," she said. Her mother turned to her. "And I see her now." They hugged. For the first time in years, not side-angled or brief, but full, arms around each other, heads touching. When Nadine left that afternoon, she turned at the door and said, "If you ever want to talk about the years we missed, I'm ready to listen." Talia smiled. "Then we'll start from now." The door closed quietly behind her, and in its wake, something opened. Not a wound, a window. Talia hadn't expected the article. It landed quietly, mid-week. A well-known columnist in a digital magazine had written a feature titled "Designing Her Truth: When Personal Stories Turn into Professional Brands." At first, she assumed it was another surface-level piece. Pull quotes from her keynote, maybe a line or two about Reverie and Oak's recent projects. But then she read it, and something shifted. The tone wasn't cruel. It was polished, measured. But between the lines was a suspicion, a suggestion that her story, her pain, was now part of her business strategy. The article referenced her divorce without naming names. It quoted phrases from her talk. "I walked away before I forgot the sound of my own voice," and followed it with. But in a world where vulnerability sells, one wonders, how much of this is authenticity and how much is branding? Talia closed her laptop. The room felt smaller. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was something worse. Unsteady. When Malin walked in later that evening, carrying dinner in a paper bag, she didn't smile. He paused. "What happened?" She slid the laptop toward him. "Read this." He scanned the article silently. Halfway through, he stopped, looked up. This was written to sound neutral. "That's the most dangerous kind." She nodded. "It's not what it says," she whispered. "It's what it implies, that your voice is manufactured, that my survival is marketable." Malin put the laptop aside, came to sit across from her. "Does it feel like truth to you?" "No," she said, "but it feels familiar." She leaned back, eyes heavy. "I spent years explaining myself to a man who made me feel dramatic every time I said I needed something. I spent more years not speaking at all. And now that you're speaking," Malin said, "you're afraid people won't believe you." She exhaled slowly. "Yes." He took her hands. "Talia, what you lived through doesn't need to be defended, but I made it public because you were ready, and because someone else might need your story, but now it's out there for anyone to twist." He nodded. "That's the price of truth. People will project their comfort zones onto it." She didn't cry. She rarely did when it mattered most. Instead, she asked, "What if I stop speaking? Just pull back?" Malin was quiet for a moment. "Then you hand the microphone to people who never lived it, and they'll write the ending for you." She looked at him, eyes wide. "That's what this is about. Voice, control, ownership." "Yes." She stood, walked to the window, watched the city blink below, then said, "I don't mind being misunderstood. I just don't want to be reduced." Malin walked over, stood beside her. "You haven't been. Anyone who read that article walked away doubting he wasn't your audience to begin with. She nodded slowly. But I still want to respond, she said. Not with anger, not even with correction, just clarity. What would you say? She thought for a moment, then spoke. I'd say that telling the truth out loud isn't a brand, it's a boundary. That my story doesn't exist to be consumed, but to remind other women they're allowed to walk away without burning down the house. Malin smiled. That's a response. She turned to him. Would you help me write it? He touched her chin gently. I'll hold the silence while you find the words. They sat that night with open laptops and candles burning low. Talia didn't write a rebuttal. She wrote a letter to the readers, to the women who had reached out to her after her talk, to herself. It wasn't defensive, it was declarative. She published it on her site under a new section, Unpolished. Her letter read, "The stories I tell are not marketing tools. They're the recovery room I offer others after the world has demanded too much and given too little. I do not share to be admired. I share so no one thinks they're the only one unraveling quietly in a perfect-looking life. I do not owe anyone the unedited footage of my pain, but I choose to offer pieces of it so that strength doesn't get confused with silence. I left a marriage that looked beautiful. I built a life that now feels true. That's not branding. That's rebirth. And if that makes anyone uncomfortable, that discomfort was never mine to carry." She closed the laptop, exhaled. Malin walked over, read it, and kissed the top of her head. "Solid," he said. "Clear, not defensive." She smiled, finally. The next morning, the article was shared widely, but so was her letter. Within hours, messages poured in, not from journalists, from women, from quiet readers, from strangers who had never commented before. Talia didn't respond to them all, but she read them, every single one. And that night, she sat on her porch, wrapped in a blanket, and realized she was no longer afraid of being misunderstood, because she understood herself, and that was enough. They chose the coast, not Paris, not Palm Springs, just a weathered cabin tucked into the cliffs 2 hours north of Seattle. It sat on a rocky bend above the water, with wild lavender creeping up the sides and a narrow deck facing the waves. Malin booked it without asking for her approval. He just sent her the listing one afternoon with a message. "I think you'd breathe better here. Pack warm clothes." Talia stared at the photo for a long time. It wasn't luxury. It was something better, uncurated, honest. She packed a soft duffel with oversized sweaters, walking boots, a scarf, and her sketchbook. Left the makeup behind. Let her curls stay free. When Malin picked her up Saturday morning, he handed her a coffee and said, "You already look like the woman I imagined here." She smiled. The drive was quiet in the best way. No need to fill every silence. He played music, instrumental jazz, soft folk, nothing that demanded attention. She rested her head on the window, letting the trees blur past. "I haven't taken a trip with someone since before," she said. "I know. I don't want this to feel like a performance." He glanced at her. "Then don't perform." The cabin greeted them with creaky floorboards and the smell of wood smoke. There was no TV, no Wi-Fi, just a fireplace, a battered kitchen, and a king-sized bed with mismatched pillows. Talia walked the room slowly, touching the raw wood beams, the uneven windows. "I love it," she whispered. Malin came up behind her. "It's messy. That's what makes it feel real." They unpacked side by side, not separating belongings, just tucking things where they fit. That night, they made pasta from scratch. Not because either of them knew how, but because it was there. Flour, eggs, curiosity. They laughed through every step. Malin ruined the first batch. Talia burned the sauce. But by 9 p.m., they had something edible, if oddly shaped. They ate on the floor near the fireplace, legs tangled, hands stained with flour. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think I forgot what slow love feels like." Malin placed a soft kiss on her hairline. "This is slow," she nodded. "Then let's keep the pace." Later, they lay in bed, backs to the wall. watching the fire flicker through the open door. She turned to him, face half lit. "Can I ask you something? Always, why haven't you ever asked me for a definition for what we are?" Malin paused, then said, "Because I already know what we are." She looked at him. "We're honest. We're safe. We're choosing each other every day. That's more powerful than any title." Talia blinked. She felt something inside her unclench. "Do you want more?" she asked. "I want what's true." She nodded, then whispered, "This is..." They didn't make love that night. They held each other, talked about childhood, about old dogs and old houses, about books that changed them. When they finally fell asleep, it was with hands interlocked, legs touching, breath matching. The next morning, Talia woke before sunrise. She padded into the kitchen, made coffee, and wrapped herself in a throw blanket out on the deck. The sea was restless but soft. Gulls circled overhead. The world felt paused. Malin joined her quietly, slipping his arm around her waist. She leaned into him. "Do you ever worry this is too easy?" she asked. He shook his head. "Ease isn't the enemy, it's the reward." She sipped her coffee slowly. "My body's still learning that." Malin kissed her temple. "Then we'll teach it." Gently, they spent the day walking the cliffs, sketching stones, making sandwiches, reading out loud from a poetry book they found on the shelf. No plans, no pictures, just presence. That night, when the wind picked up and the rain began to fall, they lit the fire again and played records from the old player in the corner. He reached for her hand. They danced slowly, barefoot on uneven wood. She rested her head against his chest. "Thank you for not needing me to be sure all the time," she said. "Thank you for trusting me with your unsure." They moved like that, no rhythm, no pattern, just sway. When they kissed, it wasn't soft, it was anchored. When they undressed, it wasn't perfect. It was honest, no candlelight, no slow music, just rain tapping the windows, and two people choosing each other without performance. Talia cried after, not because she was sad, but because she felt safe in her own skin. Malin didn't ask why. He just held her and whispered, "You're here. You're whole. You're home." And for the first time in years, she believed him. Not because he said it, but because everything in her body stopped bracing and simply stayed. Seattle greeted them with fog and news. Talia's phone buzzed the moment they crossed city limits. She ignored it. By the time they reached her apartment, she had 17 missed calls and 2 voicemails, all from her former legal partner, Liz Vaughn. "You don't have to check it yet," Malin said as he parked. "I should," she replied, voice flat. She played the voicemail on speaker. "Talia, call me back. You're not going to like how you find this out. Cora Royce's firm filed an official inquiry using your name. You need to get ahead of this. Call me back." Talia sat frozen in the passenger seat. Malin turned off the engine. She whispered, "I didn't authorize that." "I know," he said gently. She shook her head. "No, Malin, I didn't authorize it. But I spoke to Cora last week, off the record. I told her about the internal cover-up I found in Riven Tech. I said I wouldn't pursue it, not now, not with everything still raw. She promised me it would stay between us." Malin's jaw tensed. "She used your words." Talia nodded slowly. "My name, my notes. She made it public." She got out of the car. Inside her apartment, the air felt stale. The quiet she carried from the cabin cracked. Her mind raced. Damage control, public fallout, licensing board, firm reputation. Malin stood by the doorway. "I'll give you space," he said. "No," she answered too quickly. He looked at her. "I mean, don't go. I need, not advice, just presence." He stepped inside, closed the door, and set down her bag. They sat together on the edge of the couch. "I built my career around being meticulous," she said. "Controlled. Now someone took my trust and turned it into a weapon." He placed a hand over hers. "You didn't break anything. You told the truth to someone who pretended to deserve it. Talia exhaled shakily. You said you trust ease. But this is friction. This is fire. I don't fear fire, he said. I fear silence more. She looked at him, something cracking open in her. Later that evening, Liz came over. The door barely closed before her words rushed out. We have a chance to stop this. I know Cora's team filed it, but we can release a formal statement separating you from their litigation. If we do it now, the board might— Liz, Talia interrupted. I'm not denying what I said, or what I found. I'm just done pretending. Liz blinked. You're willing to risk your license? I'm not willing to carry other people's corruption in silence anymore. Malin watched from the kitchen, quietly pouring tea. After Liz left, Talia stood at the window, arms crossed. Malin came to her side. You just did something brave. I feel foolish. You're neither. You're free. She didn't respond. He added, you're scared too. Talia turned. And what happens if this costs me everything? He didn't flinch. Then we rebuild. Together. You don't even know what that would look like. Neither do you. That's why it's called faith. They stared at each other. Then she stepped into his arms, breathing him in. I want to keep choosing this, she said softly. Even when it's messy, even when I'm angry. He kissed her forehead. Then don't stop. The next morning, they worked from opposite ends of her apartment. No tension, just quiet understanding. He drafted contracts. She reread her deposition from years ago, back when she tried to expose Riven Tech's manipulated diagnostics. It had cost her a year of reputation rehab. Now, it might cost more. But something in her had shifted since the cabin. Her fear wasn't louder than her truth anymore. That night, over dinner, Malin reached across the table. Come to the board hearing next week with your own evidence. Not Cora's version. Yours, she frowned. They might question my intent. Let them. He paused. They need to see a woman who didn't stay silent to protect power. They need to see you. She didn't answer right away, but she nodded. 3 days later, she stood in front of the ethics review panel, alone. Malin waited outside, seated on a bench with a book he didn't open. Inside, Talia spoke clearly, not like a woman defending herself, like a woman who had lived through silence and decided not to return to it. She didn't attack Cora. She didn't deny the leak. She reframed the truth. I am not the voice behind their agenda, but I am the author of the discovery, and if I am punished for bringing transparency to light, then let that be a message, not about me, but about the system that punishes truth more than deception. When she exited the room, her legs trembled. Malin stood. She didn't cry. He didn't speak. He wrapped her in his arms and held her for as long as it took her heartbeat to slow. By the weekend, the inquiry had gone viral. Social feeds debated her choices. Legal forums dissected every word. But at night, in their little world, Talia curled into Malin's side and whispered, I've never felt more exposed, or more grounded. He kissed her shoulder. Freedom isn't soft, it's sharp, but it carves space for peace. They spent Sunday on his balcony, eating fruit and watching the sky shift. She held his hand. Are you scared of me now? She asked. Not even close. Even if I lose everything? You're not everything because of your job, Talia. You're everything because you stay standing, even when no one claps. She buried her face in his chest. Don't let me run when the next fire comes. I'll hold the door open until you come back. No. Stay behind me this time. He held her tighter, and something unspoken passed between them. A new contract, unwritten, but unbreakable. The city changed tone. It wasn't the weather or the skyline. It was the way people looked at her. Some looked twice. Some nodded. Some didn't look at all. The inquiry had hit legal blogs, ethics panels, and even a news segment titled Whistleblower or Opportunist. Talia stood in a coffee line near the courthouse when a young intern approached. Miss Quinn? The girl asked. You don't know me, but I'm clerking under Judge Renton. My mother was misdiagnosed using Riven Tech software. You were right, thank you. Talia blinked. No camera. No follow-up. Just a quiet thank you. Later that day, her inbox pinged. A renowned firm offered her a consulting position, one that didn't require public affiliation. They wanted her mind, not her silence. She didn't respond. Back at her apartment, she found Malin in the kitchen, slicing citrus. He smiled. "How was court?" She set her phone down. "I wasn't in court. I was seen, though, over and over." "It's weird." He handed her a slice of blood orange. "Sweet." She bit. Sharp, but real. They sat at the breakfast nook, warm light filtering through the blinds. She studied him for a long moment. "You haven't asked me how I'm holding up." He met her gaze. "I've been watching. Your body tells me more than your mouth." She tilted her head. "And what does it say?" He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "It says you're tired of navigating respectability. You want truth, even if it isn't palatable." She placed her hand over his. "And you? Are you still sure you want to be next to all this?" Malin didn't flinch. "I was born into public fallout. I know how to stay steady." Something flickered in her. "You've never talked much about your past." He nodded once. "I know." She pulled back slightly. "Not even in the cabin." Malin exhaled. "Talia, I used to think staying silent was noble, that my family name meant keeping the windows polished and the curtains drawn. But the truth? My father nearly destroyed our name trying to protect his..." He stood and paced slightly. "I watched him bury lawsuits, hide diagnoses, and gaslight my mother into silence. I thought I had escaped it, but then I started repeating him, polishing truth, masking reality." He looked at her. "You taught me something. Truth doesn't shout, but it stands. And if it burns, then it clears space for better things." Talia rose from her seat and walked to him. She wrapped her arms around his waist. "Thank you for telling me." He kissed the top of her head. "You already knew. I saw it in your eyes when I said nothing." They stood like that for a long time. On Monday, Talia walked into the board's appeal session with her notes. This wasn't about defending herself. This was about closure. Midway through, someone interrupted the hearing. A letter had arrived. It was from a former Riven tech engineer, anonymous but time-stamped. It confirmed everything Talia had said, and more. Manipulated data, intimidated staff, internal reports scrubbed. Talia sat silent as the board read it. She didn't cry, but her hands trembled under the table. After the session, Malin waited outside again. Same bench, same unread book. She walked up to him, slowly. "They're not charging me." He stood. "They're acknowledging the harm. They're considering an investigation. But they cleared my name." He didn't celebrate. He just pulled her close. "This doesn't feel like victory," she whispered. "Because it's not over," he replied. "But it's movement." They walked home, hands clasped. That night, they opened a bottle of wine. Not to toast, just to mark time. "I'm still angry," she said, sipping slowly. "You should be, and scared, I know, and thankful." He smiled. "To the wrong people? No. To the version of me that stayed." He leaned in. "Stay again. I plan to." She didn't mean just tonight. She meant in the storm, in the stillness, in the unknown. They cleaned up in silence, comfortable. Then Malin said, "There's something I need to show you." He opened his laptop and pulled up a document. Talia sat beside him. "What is this?" "It's a proposal." "For what?" "A non-profit. Legal education for underrepresented students. Named after your grandmother." She froze. "How do you even know about her?" "You told me once, half asleep. You said she was the first woman who made you believe stillness could be strong." Her eyes burned. "You built this?" "I outlined it. The rest is yours." She touched the screen. "You've been building this while I fought. I wasn't just watching, Talia. I was learning." She blinked, tears falling. "I never thought someone would mirror me back this clearly." He took her hand. "Let's build louder futures." "Without fear." She nodded. And something shifted. Not the world outside, But the one they were choosing to create, the proposal sat untouched for 2 days. Not because she didn't want it, but because it terrified her. Talia had faced lawsuits, board hearings, and national press. But putting her name on something that required hope, that was new. On the third morning, she opened the file again. Malin had built it with precision. Budget forecasts, scholarship tiers, a 3-year roadmap, everything grounded, legal, and scalable. But at the top, one line undid her. Vision for those who've been silenced, not by noise but by absence. It echoed. Her mother had been brilliant, but exhausted. Her grandmother had been patient, but unseen. And she was tired of watching women disappear behind someone else's title. Talia called the only person she hadn't spoken to in months, her father. It rang 4 times before he answered. His voice cracked. "Talia, don't talk. Just listen." She didn't yell. She didn't ask for an apology. She told him who she was now, and what she would no longer allow. She ended the call with one line. "I release you, but I don't excuse you." Click. The silence that followed was the quietest kind she'd known. It wasn't peace, but it was hers. Later that afternoon, she sat across from Marlon. He didn't speak until she did. "I read the proposal, and I want to fund it, name it, lead it, but not hide behind it." His eyes warmed. "You never could." They signed the first draft together. Then, unexpectedly, Talia asked, "When did you fall in love with me?" Malin looked up. "The second week after the scandal broke. You didn't try to soften the truth. You stood in it. Even when I failed to..." She tilted her head. "You've never said that before. I know. And now, I want to build what the world tried to tear down. With you." She placed her hand on his. "Then let's build carefully, but not quietly." The following weeks blurred. Press interviews, legal audits, potential investors, community advocates, and somewhere in the middle, quiet breakfasts, missed texts, long showers, and touches that asked no questions. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Malin surprised her with an envelope. "What is this?" "Something overdue." She opened it. It was a deed, not to a house, but to the building that would host their non-profit. "You bought this." Technically, the foundation did, but yes. She looked up at him, speechless. He rubbed the back of his neck. "There's more." He walked over to his drawer and pulled out a velvet box. Talia's breath caught, but when he opened it, it wasn't a ring. It was a gold pendant, a single engraved word, heirloom. She touched it. "My grandmother said we didn't inherit money. We inherited silence." He nodded. "And now, we rewrite what gets passed on." He placed the necklace around her neck slowly. She whispered, "This is more than I ever imagined." "Good," he replied. "You were never meant to settle." That night, they didn't sleep fast. They lay beside each other, hearts steady, breath slow. Talia turned to him in the dark. "Tell me something no one knows." Malin was quiet, then said, "I once nearly dropped out of law school. My advisor said I was a mouth with no muscle." She laughed softly. "And now, I married the storm he was afraid of. You didn't marry me yet." He smiled in the dark. Details. 3 months later, the first cohort walked through the non-profit's doors. One was a mother of 3, another, a recent parolee. All were hungry for justice, not the courtroom kind, the self-worth kind. Talia stood before them in a grey pantsuit, the heirloom necklace at her throat. She didn't give a motivational speech. She told them the truth. That silence could be strategic, but never sacred. That anger wasn't always ugly. It was often a signal. That power didn't always come with applause. It sometimes arrived in a whisper. And when she stepped down from the podium, a girl in the front row mouthed, "Thank you." That night, Malin took her hand at dinner. "You were luminous." She sipped her wine. "You always say that when I cry less than twice." He smiled. "It's true. But you were something else today. Whole." She exhaled. I still feel broken sometimes. He leaned forward. Then let's stop trying to be unbreakable. Let's build lives that aren't afraid to crack. She nodded. Later that week, a package arrived. Inside, a single page, an official exoneration letter from the board. At the bottom, one line stood out. We acknowledge Talia Quinn's integrity during this process. She framed it, not for display, but for memory. Because this wasn't just about survival, it was about legacy. The morning started with rain. Not thunder, not drama, just soft, steady rain tapping glass. Talia stood by the window, barefoot, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold. She didn't drink it. She just held it like a shield. Across the loft, Malin was folding laundry. There was something strange about how domestic peace could feel more vulnerable than war. "Do you regret not going back to the firm?" she asked suddenly. He looked up, caught off guard. "No." "Why?" "I wonder if I cost you more than I gave you." He put the shirt down. "Do you think I'm that fragile?" "I think you've had to rebuild," silently, while the spotlight stayed on me. Malin walked over. "Talia, you didn't cost me anything I wasn't ready to lose." She set the mug down. "You've been quiet lately." "So have you." They stood in that pause, both knowing it wasn't about work or headlines or plans. It was about space and what had crept into it. That night, she sat beside him on the couch. The TV played, but neither watched. "I keep thinking about my mother," she said quietly. "What about her?" She never got to build anything for herself. She worked, she survived, but she didn't live. "I wonder if I'm repeating her life in a prettier package." Malin didn't rush his response. "You're not." "How do you know?" "Because you didn't stay where you were tolerated. You moved. You demanded more. Even from me." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm tired." "Then let's rest. Not run." The next morning, she took his words seriously. She cleared her calendar, called the board, paused press runs. Then, she packed a small bag, left a note on the counter, "Don't follow, just wait." Talia drove 4 hours north, past small towns and empty stretches of highway, until she reached a cabin they'd once stayed at for a weekend after the worst of the legal storm. It wasn't about escape. It was about air. The first night, she built a fire. The second night, she cooked. The third night, she let herself cry. No performance, no audience, just her. On the fourth day, a knock came. She didn't expect it, but part of her had hoped. She opened the door slowly. There he was, not in a suit, not with an agenda, just Malin, in jeans, damp from the walk, holding takeout and a bag of lemons. She stared. He said nothing. She stepped aside. When they sat by the fire, she finally whispered, "I said not to follow." "I didn't." She raised an eyebrow. "I waited 3 days. Then I realized something." "What?" "That waiting doesn't mean absence. It means readiness." She looked away. "Talia," he continued, "you're not alone in this. But I get it. We carry differently. Your silence is a shield. Mine is a mirror." They sat in that flicker for a long time. Then he reached into his bag. Not a ring, a folder. "I revised the bylaws. For the non-profit, your name first, not second, and equal voting rights even if we ever disagree." She blinked. "You think we'll disagree?" "I hope we do. That means we're still thinking." She smiled faintly. "What if we fail?" He leaned in. "Then we fail with our names on the deed. Together." She touched his face. "You're not afraid of my ambition anymore?" He kissed her hand. "I was never afraid of it. I was afraid of losing you to it." She looked down. "Then, stay." "But not as a safety net." "As what?" "As the person who reminds me I can rest, not retreat." He exhaled. "Then let's make a rule." She nodded. He continued. "When things get loud, we don't shout. We pause. And when things get quiet, we reach. Not run." She smiled. They didn't speak much after that. They let their bodies fill in the words. Not frantic, not rushed, slow, reverent, like people who had fought to arrive here and finally let themselves feel it. The morning after, the cabin smelled like fresh eggs and rosemary. Talia moved through the small kitchen in socks, humming softly. She didn't realize Malin was watching from the doorway, arms crossed, smile tucked away like a secret. "You always hum when you're free," he said. She turned, spatula mid-air. "I do. Since college. I noticed. You used to hum before presentations." She laughed. "That was stress." "No," he said, stepping in. "It was release. You just didn't know the difference." They ate on the porch. Rain had passed. The world looked washed. He reached for her hand. No press, no investors, no staff, just us. When was the last time we remembered who we were without the noise? Talia looked down at their joined fingers. "I don't know. Maybe we never really stopped pretending. But now?" he asked. She looked up. "Now, I feel awake." Later that day, they walked into town, bought apples, sat on a bench across from the tiny bookstore. He opened the bag and handed her one. "You still want to write that children's book?" She blinked. "How did you remember that?" "You said it once, at a gala, half asleep in the car. Something about writing for the kids you never got to be." Her throat tightened. "I forgot I told you that I didn't," he said. Silence passed. Then he added, "We've both spent years building things, but we forgot to build space for who we're becoming." That night, they wrote, just pages, scraps of dialogue, notes, laughs, memories. Talia hadn't written anything personal in years. By the firelight, her words didn't need polish. They needed permission, and Malin gave it, not by critiquing, but by witnessing. When they returned to the city a week later, they didn't announce anything. No social posts, no press, just presence. Talia moved slower. She smiled more. She said no to 2 panels and yes to a mentorship group she once overlooked. She stopped measuring her day by output and started measuring it by peace. At dinner one evening, she spoke to a group of young entrepreneurs. Someone asked, "What's your biggest lesson after success?" Talia smiled. "Make room for your own questions," she said, "because when you don't, life will answer them for you. Usually the hard way." Later, as she and Malin left the event hand in hand, a journalist caught up. "Are you two back together?" he asked. Malin paused, then said, "We never left. We just stopped showing up the right way." Weeks later, on a quiet Tuesday, Malin received a letter. No name, just a return address from a shelter out of state. He opened it and read slowly. It was from a woman who had once been the other, the mistress. She apologized, not for existing, but for enabling silence. "I wanted to hurt someone who looked untouchable," she wrote, "but I didn't realize I was playing into a pattern I swore I hated. Your wife showed more grace than I deserved. I'm learning. I'm healing. Thank her if you ever get the chance." Malin folded the letter. He didn't tell Talia right away, not because of secrets, but because the past had lost its grip. Later that night, as she sat journaling on the balcony, he handed her the letter. She read it quietly, then looked up. "I don't hate her. I know. I think I used to hate me more. For staying too long. For walking away too late." He nodded. "You didn't walk away late. You walked when it was right." Talia placed the letter down. "I think healing is realizing you don't need anyone to collapse for you to rise." They sat under the night sky for a long time. 2 months later, they hosted a small dinner. Close friends, no announcements. But Talia stood at the end and raised a toast. To spaces that held us when we didn't know how to hold each other, and to the ones we now build, intentionally, imperfectly, but honestly. Malin reached for her hand under the table. She squeezed back. That night, she placed a new manuscript on his desk. A children's book, titled The Quiet That Grew Flowers, dedicated to everyone who thought silence was empty. Final life lessons. 1. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's survival, But healing begins when silence becomes choice, not default. 2. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means you stop drinking poison and expecting the past to suffer. 3. Love isn't proven in grand gestures. It's rebuilt in quiet mornings, honest pauses, and the courage to change. 4. The right partner doesn't compete with your dreams. They make room for them. 5. And lastly, you are allowed to rewrite your story, even if the world already framed it. If this story touched you, share it. If you saw yourself in Talia or Malin, leave a comment and tell us your moment of truth. And if you believe that quiet strength can rebuild what noise once broke, subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. Because here, we believe love teaches the richest lessons, and every voice deserves a second chance.